Hi everyone, welcome to this webinar run by Giant on the differences between umbrella and agency PAYE. We're just going to give everyone a few minutes to filter in because there's going to be a lot of you today which we're really excited about. We're just going to give everyone a few minutes. During this time, if you would like to put in the chat, we just want you to rate your understanding currently of umbrella versus PAYE and these payment types. So we wanted you to rate 1 if you have no idea and this is the first you're hearing about it, to 10 if you feel like you're an expert in this subject. If you can just rate your understanding out of 10. And so then we can also see where you're at the end, and hopefully you'll feel a bit more confident on this subject and we'll be able to tell you some things that you don't know. Perfect. We've got some people who are experts. They've gone for 10s. We've got a few 5s. Got all kinds of numbers coming through. So we'll hope that there's something here for everyone. We're just giving everyone a last couple of minutes to filter in so that we're all ready to go for the session. Just for anyone who's joining, people are just rating their understanding of the topic of umbrella versus agency PAYE. They're going for 1 if they have no idea about the topic and 10 if they're an expert, just to gauge everyone's understanding. We've got a huge range, which is great. I think we'll start now, and then anyone who is going to join in the next couple of minutes can just filter in and join us where we are. So welcome to this webinar today on the differences between umbrella and agency PAYE. Today's webinar is brought to you by the Giant Group, a leading contingent workforce management company for over 30 years. Over the next 40 minutes or so, we'll focus on the 2 most common ways contingent workers receive their income: agency payroll and via umbrella companies, while sharing key insights and benefits to what an umbrella company can provide to both recruitment partners and workers. We expect there to be lots of questions, so please feel free to use the Q&A function at the top of your screens, and we'll try and cover as many as possible. The topics that we're going to include today include: why do recruitment agencies work with umbrella companies? Why do contractors work with umbrella companies? What are the major benefits of working via an umbrella company versus agency PAYE? And then what sets Giant apart regarding providing umbrella services to both recruitment agencies and contractors? And then at the end, we'll try and come to as many of your questions as possible. I'm Betty Underwood and I work here on the marketing team, specialising in our webinars and events, and I'm here to host this session. And then today our keynote speakers are Michael Howard, Head of Agency Sales here at Giant Group. Michael has worked in the industry for 14 years, helping agencies navigate through a variety of legislation changes to ensure compliance and maintain profitability. Michael heads up our agency sales team to ensure our recruitment partners have access to the full range of Giant Group services. We're also joined today by Tom Williams, Key Account Director at Giant. For the last 5 years, Tom has been supporting our key agency's partners to manage their contingent workforce with Giant's range of payroll solutions, whilst ensuring the recruitment supply chain stays compliant and efficient. Today, the format will be for Michael and Tom to address several set questions, and then I'll put your questions to them also at the end. Let's begin then and start on the topics highlighted during this webinar. So, Michael, good afternoon. We'll come to you first. So, why do recruitment agencies work with umbrella companies?
Thanks, Betty. Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's always important during the webinars just to sort of set the scene and to cover off the basics for the different type of audience, different type of people we have on with us today. So I'll firstly summarise the question, which I personally get asked a lot, especially for those people outside of the sector: what is an umbrella company? I suppose very high level, an umbrella company employs contractors, typically working on a number of fixed term assignments, which are often sourced by recruitment agencies and most of you on the call today. The umbrella company employs the contractor under a contract of employment and is responsible for calculating and paying pay-as-you-earn and national insurance to HMRC. Having personally worked in this sector for more than 15 years, there has been a lot of heavy reliance from recruitment agencies working with umbrella companies. And there are a number of reasons why agencies will work with businesses like Giant in this way. And to cover off this section, Betty, I'm going to cover off the most common, not all, but the most common reasons why recruitment agencies work with umbrella companies. I think the first one that I'm going to talk to you about is outsourcing risk. So when Giant or any umbrella company become contractually engaged within a contingent supply chain, they typically take a lot or most of the risk away from the recruitment agency. Types of risk can be the likes of an employment tribunal, as Giant and or any other umbrella company would be the acting employer, as this would then be dealt with by them and not the employment business, i.e. the recruitment agency. Other risks where an umbrella company can take this away from the recruitment employment business would be statutory maternity pay, paternity pay, sick pay, whereby this is an associated cost for the worker, and as the umbrella company would be engaged as the employer, they would absorb and be liable for any such costs. For those who were in the industry 3 or 4 years ago, during the COVID pandemic, furlough was again another cost, cost that was outsourced and managed by the umbrella company, as they were the acting employer of record for the contingent worker. The second most common reason why recruitment agencies would engage with umbrella companies would be outsourcing costs. So recruitment agencies, a lot of those that are on the webinar today, are main purpose is for search and selection of candidates that are going to be placed with existing or new clients. When engaging with an umbrella company, they're also reducing the requirements they need to run payroll for the workers they support. So outsourcing could include a reduction in maybe the number of people needed to run payroll. Umbrella companies have got the flexibility to be able to do advance payments, to be a bit more flexible when it comes to payrolling workers, rather than a very specific time for workers to be paid via the agency. Umbrella companies will also ensure that RTI is ran and submissions to HMRC. Giant, Umbrella are very specialist when it comes to the contingent marketplace, and given this specialism, we're also very streamlined with automated payroll technology, allowing for greater flexibility when workers are being paid. This also allows for a greater added value piece for these contract workers. Other reasons why agencies will engage with umbrella companies is the commercial advantages. So for you, if you're in commercial, if you're in procurement, finance that are on this call today, there is a number of commercial advantages when engaging with Giant and or other umbrella companies. And this has become a real benefit for people who've got preferred supplier lists, approved supplier lists, is that they can lean on their partners to improve the commercial relationship. For those that are on the call today, historically, recruitment agencies may well introduce a preferred supplier list, and a parent or a part of the clauses will be a timesheet rebate of X amount per week. This would be then invoiced on a quarterly or monthly basis, and it would be an increase in gross profit for the business. However, due to economic pressures, more recently we are seeing the need for businesses potentially leaning on umbrella companies for payment terms, allowing for increased cash flow, increased working capital for that recruitment business. Giant, over the last 6 to 12 months, have entered into commercial arrangements with businesses where that's typical 7 to 28 days payment terms are being provided. Not only is the increase in cash flow a welcome need, but also increase in putting money on deposit. So where you would normally, as a recruitment business, pay umbrella companies in week 1, if you're paying umbrella companies in week 3 or week 4, you can put that money on deposit and earn quite a substantial interest, where the rates are now quite high. Just a note for all those people in finance and compliance on today's webinar, Giant insure all of its debt. So where we do provide payment terms, meaning we will pay off a signed timesheet, not cleared funds, we have a process internally where we have to ensure that any debt that we provide is covered by our insurance partners, and we have an internal process to cover that. We have, based on conversations and based on insights into the marketplace, with payment terms being a much greater need than it was previously, there is a lot of businesses out there that don't follow the same processes as what Giant would do. They're able to provide payment terms as that's either a prerequisite of the MSA or that's an offer that's gone out to an agency. A lot of umbrella companies don't insure the debt. They'll do it in a slightly different way. But ultimately, we want to make sure that if we are providing commercial advantages and benefits to agencies, that it's just, again, to protect that supply chain. We go through an internal process to make sure that it's commercially sensitive, but also we make sure that any debt is insured, and it just protects you, who's on the call today, protects your MSP that you supply into, it protects the client, just to make sure that we don't get the supply chain into any such sort of financial challenges, because we've seen that in the past. Unfortunately, there's been businesses that have had financial challenges and worries because maybe some certain processes were not followed. So just as a heads up for any of those people in compliance or payroll or finance today on this webinar, for any payment terms that Giant enter into, we will also make sure that that debt is insured.
Amazing. Thank you for that, Michael. Tom, can I bring you in at this point? Can you tell us, why do contractors work via umbrella companies?
Yeah, thanks, Betty. Good afternoon, everybody. So the conversation really comes about when we're talking about umbrella companies with contractors is regarding temporary contract roles, and specifically regarding day rate contract roles. Workers could maybe not want to commit to another perm role potentially, or maybe like the flexibility of working on a contract basis, and therefore the PAYE or umbrella models may be more suitable for them. But more specifically, without turning this conversation into an IR35 lecture, it is all due to IR35 and the determination made by the client. Long story short, if a worker is going to be outside of IR35, they're a true contractor and continue to be paid through the limited company. But if they're deemed inside and therefore a disguised employee, the worker would need to be paid like an employee as well, and taxed like an employee. So that's where the PAYE or umbrella model comes into play. A few of the reasons as well for contractors using umbrella companies is some of the larger financial companies and banks and some end hirers or clients made a blanket inside decision. So all workers are forced to use an inside of IR35 scope payroll model. Other clients may have refused to engage with limited companies and stop the ability to pay in towards PSC. So therefore, the other alternative is to go in towards PAYE or umbrella or another inside of IR35 payroll model. And some agencies don't actually offer internal agency PAYE. So for inside of IR35 contracts, these would have to go down the umbrella route. Other reasons why contractors may want to use an umbrella company is due to the specialised knowledge, and someone like a Giant who've been in the industry in the payroll contingent world for nearly 30 years. A lot of contractors find that really important to have a go with a trusted advisor. It's also important to note the recruitment agency are experts in the search and selection, but the payroll company or the umbrella company are experts in payroll, which is important for some contractors as well. And another point of to why contractors would use an umbrella company is, especially for the veteran contractors or the contractors who are looking to be payrolled, to work contract for their entire life. It's really important for them guys. What happens a lot of the time is a contractor would stay with an umbrella company for their whole contract life. The reason for that is they get the benefits of continuous employment, and working through that one umbrella company and maybe having back-to-back or multiple assignments at once shows to the likes of HMRC continuous employment, and it'd be great for mortgages, credit scores, and also loans as well. So just a few of the reasons there why a contractor would use an umbrella company.
Thanks, Tom. A quick reminder to our audience at this point, please feel free to put any questions that you have in the Q&A function, and we'll try and get around to as many as possible at the end. And then we're actually going to come back to you again, Tom, so don't get too comfortable. What are the major benefits of working via an umbrella company in comparison to agency PAYE?
Yeah, thank you, Betty. Apologies for my croaky voice. I think I might be coming down with something, so apologies if it's not too hard on the ears. But yeah, the conversation regarding umbrella and PAYE is probably the one that I have on the most frequently with agencies and also contractors, in talking about what's the benefits of PAYE, what's the benefits of umbrella, and how do they compare. And it's a really important conversation to understand. One of the main ones that I feel is most important, and Mike touched upon it earlier, is regarding the employment status of the worker. If you're direct PAYE through the agency for your role, you're generally classed as a worker on a contract for services, so you're not necessarily employee. However, if you're going down the umbrella model and you're the umbrella company will be employer, and therefore you will be the employee of the umbrella company. So through umbrella, you'll get the added benefits of your statutory sick pay, your paternity pay, your maternity pay, having the security of working through an employer and being an employee of a company, which is really important for some people, and also aspects such as holidays and pensions that we'll come on to in a second as well. But the employment status is really important. Other benefits of and also the comparison, if you like, of PAYE and umbrella is regarding flexibility of payroll. And PAYE is very black and white and robust in the way it's payrolled. You get paid on a certain day in a certain month, and there's not much flexibility in terms of the way people and contractors are paid. Through umbrella, there is much more flexibility, so you can sometimes choose when you're going to get paid. And there's loads of instances where we find where we're able to have to pay advances to workers. That generally comes about when maybe a worker's missed a timesheet, or there's been some sort of delay in getting the timesheet approved, or maybe a worker wants to get paid a day early because they've got a mortgage coming out of their bank earlier than expected. And one of the great things about umbrella companies is we're able to pay advances at any point to the worker. We will pay them as an urgent payment, and any funds that need to be reclaimed, we would reclaim at the next payroll. So definitely flexibility about payroll is really important as well. In terms of other benefits of both options is regarding holidays. Everyone's different in terms of their PAYE systems. It's hard to generalize things, but what I've found when I'm speaking to my clients is there's sometimes a lack of ability to be able to offer all or both of the holiday options, and maybe they would just revert to one of the holiday options as standard. The good thing about Umbrella and Giant and a few of our competitors is you're able to have the choice of holidays. Yes, you can go with the normal accrued holiday and get your paid annual leave when you want to take time off. But there's also the option to go rolled up and get paid that holiday savings pot alongside your weekly or monthly salary. So the options of holidays is crucially important when the worker's looking to decide of which one's more beneficial for them. And lastly is the most common one that we get is regarding pensions, and what are the options for pensions, and how flexible. It's probably a common theme is how flexible we are with pensions. And one thing that Umbrella is able to do and Giant are able to do, and again a few of our close competitors, is being in towards salary sacrifice pensions. What that means is we're able to pay these private pensions before the tax and national insurance is deducted, so the worker gets a huge tax relief on paying towards a pension. So I think it works out for every £1,000 a worker contributes to these private pensions, the worker will save around £550 on tax relief. So huge tax savings if they're looking to contribute a significant amount into their pension. And one of the great things about Giant is we're able to pay in towards any existing pension provider. So if they've got a pension provider privately set up already, we're able to continue to pay in towards that if they did choose through Giant Umbrella. So yeah, that's just a brief idea of a few comparisons of PAYE and maybe some of the benefits of Umbrella as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tom, for that information. And so then coming to you, Michael, what sets Giant apart regarding providing umbrella and payroll services to both recruitment agencies and contractors? And I know that one of the questions that we've already had in the chat is someone saying that currently they've avoided using umbrella contract arrangements to date because of the high level of HMRC activity challenging umbrella companies, and they've asked how can Giant provide confidence for them. And I think this section is really relevant to that, because one of the first things that you're going to come on to talk about is compliance. So passing over to you to do that.
Thanks, Betty. Yeah, beat me to it really, but no, thanks for the engagement on the webinar. We've had quite a number of points raised, and please do use that Q&A to continually ask any questions that Tom or I or Betty don't bring up. So yeah, I suppose summary, what sets Giant apart from providing umbrella services to recruitment agencies and contractors. So I think it's important we separate this. So, you know, there's benefits down the chain to contractors. There's also benefits for recruitment agencies, MSPs and clients up the chain. So I think you're right. I think the first place and the most important place to start with any conversation is compliance. So I'm going to talk to you about the benefits where Giant, I suppose, are providing benefits to recruitment agencies. Now, unfortunately, the umbrella world is not regulated. We are favouring regulation, and we would like to see regulation in this space, but at the moment, umbrella world is not regulated. There was a recent umbrella consultation last year that was HMRC advised would be discussing a few ways in which how they would regulate the umbrella world. There was also a further comment on in April called Tax and Administration Day, and that was again further talk from HMRC about this umbrella focus and this umbrella need to be a lot more tightly controlled. So in terms of compliance, unfortunately there's no given regulation, but there is ways in which businesses can reduce risk, minimize risk and outsource risk. So there's a number of accredited bodies. Giant are an accredited member of REC, APSCO team. But I think for those that are on the call, for those that have been in the industry for a period of time, the golden sort of standard, and has been for a number of years, is FCSA. Giant are not just a member of FCSA, but we're one of 3 founding members of FCSA back in 2008. That's how long this accreditation has been going, to sort of ensure that the compliance mark is as high as it possibly can be. So for agencies that are on this webinar, if you're engaged with a business that maybe doesn't have an accreditation or ones that you've not heard of, the umbrella world is definitely going to be have a key focus from whichever government takes up the reins of the UK from the general election. So please do make sure that you are comfortable with the risk that you've got in terms of working with third-party providers. In terms of compliance, people always ask me, what's the next big thing? What's the next thing that we need to be aware of? And Giant recently were asked by an end client, and they flowed it down to a recruitment agency about our ESG rating, environmental and sustainability governance rating, which we didn't have at the time. This was towards the back end of last year. However, following on a lot of processes, a lot of paperwork, a lot of engagement, we now have an ESG rating certificate. The reason I'm raising this to the audience on the webinar today is ESG, from the information we got from the client request, every party within that supply chain has to be ESG rated. So if you're an agency that ESG rated now, do all of your umbrella companies have an ESG rating? And if the answer is no, I'm just following on from the recent engagement we had with a client. If your payroll provider you engaged doesn't have an ESG rating, there was a deadline for them to be ESG rated, and if they weren't, then they weren't able to fulfill payroll services. So if anybody's on the call in compliance or finance or procurement, and you know, they've ticked the boxes with FCSA and REC and other members, I would just double check whether all of your payroll providers are ESG rated, and maybe just get ahead of any potential curve that might be around the corner. In terms of what sets Giant apart in terms of engagement with companies, we'd also like to say financial stability. We as Giant have got a solid, positive balance sheet. We've got zero debt. We are able to provide trade credit, commercial arrangements with businesses, and as I say, it's always insured. To further emphasize this, we have a financially stable business partners. We've spoken to a number of businesses over the last 6 months who want commercial terms, and the power of our balance sheet being able to provide cash flow injections into businesses is really in great need at the moment. Other businesses are wanting payment terms, wanting to outsource where they can increase their cash flow. Recruitment agencies, this is a big talking point at the moment. So if there are any agencies on the webinar today that either want to look at exploring ways of increasing that sort of cash flow or working capital increase with umbrella companies, please do pick up with Tom or I afterwards. Other areas that Giant are, I suppose, beneficial to recruitment agencies is that we provide automated payroll and technology platforms. So we understand what umbrella companies should be able to do. And we've got really effective and efficient payroll solutions allowing for greater candidate experience. It's all geared up and centric around the contractors that we all work for, we all payroll, we all engage with, we all support, and ultimately we believe that our experience in this marketplace is fantastic. We have a lot of feedback on how we can make things better, and ultimately make sure that our payroll processes are as efficient and as effective as possible. And I think finally, we are open to having commercial appetite with recruitment agencies. For agencies who want to explore and review the current or the potential prospective commercial arrangements, we're happy to have conversations where we don't have a black and white, and we can't do this and we can do this. If there's a commercial appetite for both businesses to gain and benefit from and ensure that the candidate's experience is as strong and as great as possible, Tom, myself and the wider sales team are more than happy to have commercial conversations with compliance, with procurement, with finance at recruitment agencies who want to look at maybe some of the points we've discussed today, outsourcing risk, outsourcing liability and improving cash flow. Then please do speak to Tom or I afterwards, because commercial appetite is definitely an angle we want to be having regular conversations with recruitment agencies for.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Michael. And now if you could go on to outline the benefits for contractors for us, please.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, centric around our audience, whether we're an MSP, whether we're a recruitment agency, whether an umbrella provider, it's so important we make sure that we've got benefits and support for our contractors. Giant, we've been doing this for 30 plus years, and we know and we've understood that not every worker is the same. Some workers are in the blue collar, some workers are in the white collar sector, and they have a real big difference in terms of what's valuable for them. Different people work in different sectors, and again, we've done a huge amount of analysis on sector related feedback. So what I've tried to do here, Betty, is just to outline a couple of benefits as to why Giant are sort of centric around our contractors and what benefits we provide to the workers themselves. So I think, this might sound a bit generic, but obvious and simple, but ultimately paying workers accurately and on time is so important. I know that's what's expected of an umbrella company, but if you all feel like on this webinar, have you had any payroll queries, any payroll challenges with contractors in the past? Likelihood is there's always been some periods of time when people either haven't been paid, either people haven't been paid on time, or have been paid incorrectly. So I think for us as a business, having that efficient payroll process, we call it a data exchange, where we can exchange remittance information from you, the recruitment agency, to Giant, allows for such a simple process. We don't require funds to be cleared. to be able to then pay the workers, we can actually pay workers off the remittance file that you send us. So it gives us a huge amount of breathing space when it comes to workers being paid. Some companies will wait for the money to clear, and you know yourself, that Friday afternoon, that Friday late morning, the amount of calls that workers ring up about, I've not been paid, or I've been paid wrong, I can't see my payslip. That's because certain businesses work in a way that they wait for the funds to clear in their bank account and then they pay the worker. But we all know with banks and banking processes, that money can clear in 7 o'clock in the morning. It could clear 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So with Giant, we're in a really, really hugely prevalent position where we can get that remittance file from you as a recruitment agency on the Wednesday. We can upload that timesheet and we can pay the workers on the Thursday, meaning that we're not waiting for cash to be cleared. We're not waiting for banks to have their processes at certain times. A lot of our payroll gets done on a Thursday rather than the Friday. And that makes a huge amount of difference. I know we're talking one day. However, it means that we've got so much more time at the back end of the week to rectify any late timesheets, to maybe do any advances, or just to sort of pick up any queries that candidates have got on that Friday, rather than having to make sure that everybody gets paid on that Friday. So, you know, I know it sounds simple, I know it sounds expected, but making sure workers get paid effectively and on time is so crucially important. There's a number of businesses, and I've worked across this marketplace for a long time now, where umbrella companies still require them to go onto their portal and raise the timesheet on their portal. And that could, in theory, stop the worker getting paid. How many times have you heard it where workers have submitted the timesheet, hiring managers approved it, recruitment agencies paid the umbrella company, but the worker hasn't been paid? If ever you've had that, or you're currently experiencing that, then with Giant's operational and payroll processes, that would never be the case. We get the remittance file from the recruitment agency and we pay the worker off that remittance file. So we're not waiting on duplication of information. We're not waiting on manual processes. It's all very much automated, effective, and it just means that that candidate experience is as positive as it possibly can be. As we, as a business, have moved into the umbrella world, I think for those that were in the white collar sector back in 2021, when I-35 kicked in the private sector, may have engaged a lot of limited company contractors. The shift in population to umbrella contractors has gone significantly higher, and we've had to make sure that we provide our contractors with employee benefits. We've got a list of them. I don't want to just shout out a lot of lists of benefits that Giant provide, but I think one thing that's really important and to share with the audience on today's webinar is that we provide contractors with private medical healthcare. You know, we understand, and workers do too, that when they're off work, potentially they might not get paid. You know, they're not an employee like you and I. They're a contractor. So, you know, having as little time off or away from work as possible is crucially important. With Giant's private medical insurance, they can ensure they're getting quicker response times to medical treatments, medical requirements. This policy also isn't just for them. This is for their spouse, their family. We've had over a couple of hundred workers add an additional cover to cover their spouse, their partners, their children. And the policy that we provide, it also includes the likes of opticians, also includes the likes of dentistry. So we want to try and make sure we can give back to our contractors as much of the benefits that we can as possible. And the private medical healthcare seems to be one of the most popular, one of the most unique on the market. In terms of contractor benefits, I know, Tom, you've mentioned this on one of your sections earlier. Contractors want to try and make sure they can be as tax efficient as possible. And while we all know that the auto enrolment pension scheme that kicks in after 12 weeks is a way to try and do that, Giant have taken that a step further. So we not only contribute and allow workers to auto enroll, but we can, and we do, provide self-invested private pension support. So what this means is that if you've got a worker that moves from agency to agency, from umbrella company to umbrella company, what they want to try and do is retain their continued pension pot for when they retire. And we spent a lot of time, a lot of technology, a lot of resource to try and make sure that we can support candidates in this space. So we work with whole of market self-invested private pension partners. So if you've got a contractor that speaks to you and says, I want to put a lot of my money into St James's Place pension that I've had for a number of years. I want to put a number of pension providers into Hargreaves Lansdowne because that's my pension provider. We are very, very transparent when it comes to that. If Contractors wants to contribute towards a private pension provider, we can support that. I suppose just to put into context, over the last 3 months, Giant has provided payments into over 50 different pension providers each month. So it might sound like a lot of work, a lot of different companies that we're engaging with, but ultimately that's an added value that we want to provide to be able to, support contractors who have self-invested private pension. Contractor comes to us and wants to set up a pension, or they've got an existing one, we can support the need of that. And just to give everyone a little bit of context, if the contractors put money through salary sacrifice, potentially like you do with your employer, it means that they're getting their earnings are becoming much more tax efficient. So that money comes out of their earnings before tax and NI is applied. It just means that, again, it's becoming much more tax efficient. And with us having whole of market, we're not restricting the workers on who they can and who they can't use. And I suppose just to summarize and finalize why Giant and what Giant have done recently is that, we're really proud with our Trustpilot review. 4.8 is what our current Trustpilot review is. And, we take a lot of feedback. We take a lot of acknowledgements in what we do. Back in 2021, when a lot of workers had to move from limited company to umbrella, there was a lot of negative noise around umbrella companies. Unfortunately, it wasn't umbrella companies' fault, but it was potentially perceived of that by contractors because they had to move from limited company to umbrella way of working. And a lot of umbrella companies at that time were, Trustpilot's score was very low because people were sort of negative feedback about, deductions from assignment income. There was a lot of noise and perceivement around why is this company deducting 2 lots of national insurance, employers and employees? And unfortunately, back then, 2-3 years ago, Trustpilot reviews were very, very negative around the umbrella world. I think with a lot of what Tom and I and Betty have said over the last 35 minutes, we've made huge improvements and we've listened. We've taken feedback on what contractors and agencies want. And we're now at 4.8 out of 5 on a Trustpilot score. So very proud. Still areas of improvement, still ways of feedback we can learn. But I suppose the aim for ourselves as a business is to learn from that feedback, to make sure we're in the right place to support candidates and agencies, and keep pushing forward, keep pushing that positive support. Operationally, payroll, from a sales perspective, can we meet the demands of the recruitment agencies? And hopefully in the next 3 to 6 months we can see that score rise even further to 4.9 or 5. And in what is a very, very congested market and challenging market, to have a Trustpilot score of 4.8. If there are any people on here that have got a preferred supplier list, or I've got other umbrella companies that you engage with, Trustpilot is also another good way to see what feedback they're doing in terms of how they're supporting their contingent workers. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question, Betty.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And thanks to both of you for some insight into this topic in the last half an hour or so. We've got loads of questions, so I'm going to cherry pick a few and put them to you, and then any we don't get round to, the team will follow up with you afterwards, especially where you've got specific questions or it's specific to your industry, so we feel like that will be really useful to you. Let's start with so I've got a question here. Is it just contingent workforce providers that would use an umbrella company, or do you find employers using umbrella companies direct?
I'll pick that up. Thanks, Betty. Thanks for the question. I think we've got to be careful. Ultimately, contingent workers are 99% placed via recruitment agencies, via MSPs, via master vends. However, some clients will have their own talented pool. This is mainly in the projects division. So if you're a business that's got a projects division where it's maybe statement of works, or you've got a talented pool of individuals that are very specialist, they may not need a recruitment agency. They might want to have contingent workers directly. It is very, very small amount. I would say 1 or 2% of workers that are engaged directly through end hirers. And all of the reason why is that when clients outsource engagement of recruitment to agencies, they also outsource a lot of the risk that we spoke about in today's webinar. So 99% of workers are engaged via recruitment agencies, and then they use an umbrella company. You might have a very small percentage of end hirers that have their own talented pool of workers that are skilled, that basically are drafted in on a statement of work basis, that again might want to just be paid via an umbrella company. But that's a very small amount of workers that we support, but the majority of workers are recruitment agencies.
Amazing, thank you so much. We've then got this question, which is, as a direct employer, we engage with several IT contractors on very large government projects. What, if any, are the benefits engaging an umbrella company? Is it not up to the contractors to decide? And they say they understand that there's no risk to them. But yeah, can you answer that?
No, happy to help. I suppose maybe a little bit more context here is, are these workers engaged as limited companies? Are they pay as you earn? There's a number of ways in which workers can be engaged. There's a number of commercial benefits to the agency if they engage via umbrella companies, including increased cash flow, increased working capital. There's also a number of benefits for workers. They become an employee of the umbrella company. They have a contract of employment. They get a lot more rights. So I'm more than happy to reach out to that person who's asked the question on the webinar, because I think there's a bit more context and a little bit more variables that might determine on which direction that we go with that. But happy to pick that one up offline, definitely, to discuss further.
Amazing, thank you. And then lots of people have asked about costs, and again, we'll come back to people after the webinar on that. And then there's this question here: how would the interaction between agency, umbrella and worker operate in terms of transfer of funds from end client through to worker, including whether you would use escrow for funds?
Do you want to pick that one up, Tom? Or
Yeah, no, happy to. How that interaction work? Generally, the transfer of funds is obviously from the client down to the recruitment agency. The recruitment agency would simplistically take their margin and then pass the remaining funds down to the umbrella company, and then the umbrella company would then make the relevant deductions for PAYE, the employment deductions, the employees NI, the app levy, get to the worker's gross pay, and then the employee deductions of tax and national insurance, and pay the worker the net wage. Generally how the transfer of funds work.
Amazing, thank you so much for that. I think we should maybe wrap up for today, and then come back to anyone who's asked a more specific question, because we'd be really, really pleased to have those conversations individually with you, of course, if you feel the same. But thank you to our two experts today, and for all of you for joining. We'll be following up from this session with an email tomorrow containing the recording, so that you can rewatch this or share it with anyone who might be interested, and a questionnaire so that we can also be driven by your feedback. And if there are any specific questions, feel free to get in touch with us, and we may get in touch with you after the webinar as well. And we just hope to be in contact with you in the future, and please keep joining our webinars. We like to see you, and we'll see you again soon.
thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Have a good one.
Bye.